It feels like we're all drowning in data these days, right? But here's the thing. Collecting all that data, that's actually the easy part. The real challenge is making it all work together. So today, we're going to dive into how you can tame that data flood by building and, maybe more importantly, orchestrating a modern data pipeline right on AWS. Let's get into it.
So here's what we've got on tap. We're going to start with the problem itself, this chaos of modern data. Then we'll look at the building blocks of a solution and uncover the secret sauce, which is really all about orchestration. We'll even put the two main conductors for this data symphony head-to-head. And then finally, we'll see how it all comes together to turn all that noise into some really valuable insight.
All right, first up, let's really get to the heart of the issue, the modern data problem. And let's be clear, this is why just hoarding data isn't going to cut it anymore. And when I say it's a problem, I mean the scale is just staggering. We're not talking about small increases here. We are talking about an absolute explosion. We've gone from thinking in terabytes to petabytes, and now even exabytes. The sheer scale is almost mind-boggling. And the old ways of doing things? Well, they just can't keep up.
And it's not just how much data there is, it's the sheer variety of it. This graphic kind of sums up the chaos perfectly, right? Data is flying in from every direction imaginable. Your databases, all the sauce apps you use, real-time streams. It's just a messy, unpredictable mix of structured, semi-structured, and completely unstructured information.
All of that chaos creates some very real, everyday headaches for data engineers. I mean, you're trying to deal with data structures that change on a whim, you've got poor quality, you've got bad data integrity, duplicate records, and on top of all that, there's this constant pressure to deliver it all on time. It is a constant battle just to keep things in order.
So how do we actually start to fight back against all this chaos? Well, we begin by building a pipeline to create some order. And on AWS, that whole process really starts with a foundational tool called AWS Glue.
Now, the core concept behind any data pipeline is something called ETL. You've probably heard of it. It stands for extract, transform, and load. It's the basic recipe. You extract the raw data from all those different sources, you transform it, which means cleaning it up and reshaping it so it's consistent, and then you load it into a central place, like a data lake, where you can finally start to analyze it. For AWS users, the go-to service for these ETL jobs is AWS Glue. And the most important word on the slide is serverless. That is a huge deal. It means you are not managing servers or infrastructure anymore. You just get to focus on the important stuff, the actual logic for finding, preparing, and combining your data.
And Glue isn't just one thing, it's actually a whole family of services. You've got the core AWS Glue, which is perfect for data engineers who are comfortable writing code, but you also have tools like AWS Glue Data Brew, which gives you this awesome visual no-code interface so data analysts can get in there and clean and normalize data themselves. It's all about giving the right tool to the right person for the job. Okay, so we can use Glue to build our individual ETL jobs. Fantastic. But, and this is a big but, here's where the hidden complexity really starts to creep in. Building the jobs is one thing. Making them all work together reliably in the right sequence every single time, that is a whole different ballgame. And that's really the key question you have to ask yourself. Because a real data pipeline isn't just one step. It's a whole series of jobs and data validation checks and all this conditional logic. So how on earth do you manage all of those dependencies and make sure everything runs in the right order without fail? This diagram, this is what reality looks like. A real-world pipeline is this complex web of tasks. If one job fails, the whole thing can just grind to a halt. You need a system that can manage dependencies, handle errors gracefully, and make sure everything runs in perfect sequence. This is not a simple problem to solve on your own. What you need is an orchestrator. I love this analogy. Think of it like the head chef in a super busy kitchen. You have all the line cooks preparing individual ingredients. Those are your glue jobs. But it's the head chef who's calling the shots, making sure everything is timed perfectly, and bringing it all together to create that final amazing dish. That's orchestration. So who are these head chefs, these conductors on AWS? Well, let's meet the two main players when it comes to orchestrating your data pipeline. So on one side, you have AWS Step Functions. This is a fully managed AWS native service that lets you build visual workflows. And on the other side, you've got the open source champion, Apache Airflow. And AWS offers this as a managed service called MWA.
which is short for Managed Workflows for Apache Airflow. All right, let's put these two powerhouses side by side, because understanding their core philosophies is absolutely key to picking the right one for your team and your project.
So the most fundamental difference is how you build your workflows. Step Functions is visual first. You literally drag and drop components to create a flowchart of your process. Airflow, on the other hand, is code first. You define your entire pipeline using Python scripts. We call these scripts DAGs, and they're basically blueprints for your tasks and all their dependencies. It gives you incredible power and flexibility.
And this table really breaks down the practical differences. With Step Functions, you get that true serverless experience. It scales automatically, you only pay for what you use, you literally don't have to think about servers. Airflow on MWAA is a managed service. AWS handles the servers for you, which is great, but you still have to think a little bit about capacity and scaling. And while Step Functions has amazing, deep integration with other AWS services, Airflow's big strength is its massive library of connectors to tools both inside and outside of the AWS cloud.
So the big question, which one should you choose? Here's how I like to think about it. Step Functions is the easy button for automation that lives entirely within AWS, especially for event-driven stuff. It requires minimal setup. But if you're a data engineer who lives and breathes complex pipelines that might span multiple clouds, and you need that granular, fine-tuned control that only Python can give you, well, then Airflow is your Swiss Army knife. It's built for that heavy lifting.
All right, so we've met the tools, we've met the conductors. Now let's see what the final performance looks like when we put it all together in a complete end-to-end orchestrated pipeline. And here it is, the final result. You start with that chaotic mess of data sources over on the left, but through this series of carefully orchestrated steps, that raw data gets transformed into a clean, curated, and highly organized data lake. And this isn't just about storing data anymore. This is about building a foundation to create real, tangible business value.
And here's the whole flow, broken down into 5 simple steps. First, raw data lands in a bucket in Amazon S3. That event then triggers our orchestrator, whether it's Step Functions or Airflow. The orchestrator then kicks off a whole sequence of AWS Glue jobs to process that data. The nice, clean data gets loaded into a curated zone in our data lake. And finally, it's ready for action, ready to be used by BI dashboards, analytics tools, and even advanced machine learning models. When it's orchestrated correctly, it's just a beautifully seamless process.
You know, at the end of the day, building a data pipeline isn't just a technical exercise. It's really about getting answers to your most important questions. All those answers are hiding in your data, and the orchestrator you choose is what determines how well and how effectively you can ask those questions. It's really the critical link between just raw potential and truly actionable insight. Thanks for joining me.